Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. Now, we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Now, because it's a solo episode, if my audio is not working, please give me a heads up in the comments. If you're watching live, drop a one in the comments. And if you're watching the recording, drop a number two. Today, well, a number two in the comments. That sounded weird. Anyway, today I'll be talking about preparing for your third year of articles, or as it's referred to these days, the third and final year of your training contract to qualify as a chartered accountant. Previously, we talked about preparing for your first year and preparing for your second year. I did two separate sessions, so if you missed that, please check it out on YouTube or on LinkedIn. And to reiterate, I'll be speaking about the 3-year contract journey, as that's the one that I went through. If you're doing a 4-year or a 5-year contract, there may be other nuances, but they'll probably have similarities if you're specifically talking about the last year of your training contract. Now, before we get into the work part, I mentioned it in my second year session, but I'm going to mention it again. Don't buy that fancy car. Yes, it looks cool, but it's not worth living hand to mouth after that. Buy a practical car. When you are earning a CA salary, then think about that fancy car. But now just get a practical car. You have to drive to clients or you have to drive up and down. No point having a fancy car and then you don't have enough money for groceries or you can't do other things. Anyways, let's get into the meat of it. So many of you will have completed your second board exam in your second year of articles. For those of you who were perhaps not successful in the exam in your second year, do your best to pass your board exam in your third year. There's a massive difference in your marketability after articles between someone who has passed the board exam and someone who has not. It doesn't matter if you are a much better worker. There's a perception that that you are not as good. Even if you worked on the same types of clients and you did the same type of work, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you that the perception exists. So take the board course seriously. It's the best part. It's the best practice for your exam. Don't risk failing your board exam because you took it too easy, or don't risk failing your board exam because you were too committed to your job. Please find a balance. Also, at least during your training contract, yes, it's tough, but at least your managers and your partners have an understanding of the sacrifices you have to make to write your board exam. If you move into corporate, you're going to be working with people who haven't dealt with board exams in a long time or don't know what that is at all. So they might not understand when you're saying you need lots of study leave and you're very stressed. So while you're in your training contract, try and finalize, get through those board exams while you are in your training contract. Now, some people are considering studying the CFA and their postgraduate in tax and whatever other things during the third year. And if you really love studying and you can manage the workload, then by all means do it. But it's absolutely fine to never want to write another exam again. I was exactly the same. I think I was scarred. I have written one or two small exams, but nothing even close to the magnitude of board two. And I've been, I wrote board two in 2010, 15 years, and I haven't written a massive exam. So I definitely didn't study anything for a while after board exam. But I know there are some overachievers out there. So, hey, good luck to you. If you love studying, do it. Anyways, let's get into the work side of things. Towards the end of your second year and at the beginning of the third year, you start being the leader of the other trainees, especially in specific projects or audits that you're on. Some firms call it the AIC or the auditor in charge. On smaller clients, you might even get the opportunity to take on a managerial role. Now, if the opportunity is there, step up. Don't shy away from it because some people don't have or don't get those opportunities. The other way to get those opportunities is to ask for them. Don't expect the opportunities to be offered to you. So your manager and your partner, they are busy with a million things and they don't necessarily know what you are interested in. So you have to communicate your interests. and do it a few times. Don't assume just because you mentioned it once, they're always going to remember. You mentioned it once in passing, or even after one discussion, they're probably going to forget. And it's not because they don't like you, and it's not because they don't care. It's just they've got a lot on their plate. I went for a run, so I'm a little bit flushed, but we keep going. As a third year, remember that you lead by example. Your second year and your first year will emulate your actions. If you book your time correctly, your second and your first year will follow suit. If you swallow time, your second year and your third year, your second year and your first year may follow you as well. Don't be a reason why someone else is guided down the wrong path. Also, as you are a leader, make sure that you defend your second year and your first year if your manager has the wrong impression of them. Be the third year that you needed when you were in first year. Also, don't forget to establish relationships with the new first years that come in, and make sure you strengthen the relationships with the second years. In 10 to 15 years from now, they are all likely to be in executive positions. And people remember which seniors treated them badly and which seniors were helpful. To this day, I go out of my way for seniors who've helped me during articles. Even if I haven't spoken to them in months or years, some of them I haven't spoken to them since articles. But if they call me or if I see them, I will make time for them because they went out on a limb for me and they looked out for me. If I happen to miss the call because I'm in a meeting, you best believe I'm going to call them back after the meeting. A big regret of mine was not making better connections with my peers during articles. Now, if you have any questions, I'll be responding to questions towards the end. So please add your questions to the comment section now so that I don't miss them. Now, this is a little bit of a reality check for not new third years, more people or third years coming towards the end of their contract. So some of you third years might think that because you've managed first and second years that you are a good manager. And this is unfortunately not the full truth. The reason that it's easier to manage first years and second years who are studying to be chartered accountants is that they are generally motivated because they're also trying to achieve something massive. They all want to become a chartered accountant, so they're incentivized to work hard, they're motivated to perform. So they're easier to manage because they are easier to incentivize. When you move out of articles, you move out of audit, you start managing 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds. Some of them have no reason to work hard. So you have to learn new ways to manage them. You have to find new ways to incentivize them. And sometimes you might not have the ability to incentivize them. The company that you work for might not give you the opportunity to give bonuses or some other thing. So you might not be able to. Then you have to work with after articles. You'll find people who are only willing to do the minimum to get paid, and you have to start dealing with things like disciplinaries and staff underperformance, and that can be difficult to manage. It does happen in articles, but less so because your first years and your second years all want to become chartered accountants. They're all studying. They're all trying to achieve, so they're easier to manage. Some of you might also start thinking about your situation after articles. Please remember a few important things. Most audit firms only retain a handful of trainees as managers. Now, if you apply and you don't make it, it's not a negative reflection on your skill. It just means that they feel that someone else is better suited. Maybe audit's not for you, or not. Maybe audit is for you, but maybe this firm doesn't see your value in another firm more. So don't let it get you down if you're not one of the 10% or 5% that stays on after articles. If you're applying for a job outside of audit, remember that the companies only start advertising at earliest in September for the following year. And you'll be lucky even if it's September. So there's no point applying for jobs between April and August. Because if somebody's advertising a job in August, they want it filled by October, November latest. And you can't leave articles early. Yeah, there are exceptions, but most likely you're not going to be able to apply for jobs. So don't try and start applying for jobs that you see on job boards in March. You're just going to be disappointed. If you are one of those trainees who are completing articles in corporate, so you're not completing articles in audit, you have a much better opportunity to stay at your current company, because articles in corporate is generally designed to grow the pipeline of the company. They generally don't want to lose the institutional knowledge that you've gained, because training someone new will be a lot more costly, because they've basically been training you for 3 years for this role. Um, Whereas, so if you think about articles in audit, they train you to go into the economy, the general economy. If you're doing articles in corporate, they're training you for that company. Let's touch on secondments a little bit, because some of you want to know about that. There are many different kinds. There are secondments to different departments in your firm, and then there's secondments to different locations. So if, let's say, you're interested in tax or compliance or accounting, you could get a secondment for a few weeks, or even a month in a different department, even if you're interested in things like training. This is where you can learn to do that type of work. But you need to communicate your interest to that department so that they know that you're keen. Also communicate it to your not your relationship manager, what do they call it? Anyways, your manager and your director or your partner in your department, so they are aware that you are interested in tax, or you are interested in learning and development, or you are interested in training. You need to communicate. Nobody's going to smell that you are interested in something. So it's also good to chat to the people in other departments, get to know the people in the department that you're interested in. You must communicate your interest to that department, so that they know that you're keen, because if a role becomes available towards the end of your articles, or they might try and structure it so that you get that role. In terms of in terms of international secondments, this is generally done at the end of your articles. The biggest opportunity in international secondments is generally in audit, and it's anywhere from 3 months to 2 years. And you generally end up doing audit work, but it gives you the opportunity to see the world. One of my biggest regrets is not applying for an international secondment. So I didn't get the chance to travel. It's like after articles, sometimes you get married, you have children, and the opportunities to travel or to work overseas and see the world become less and less. So take advantage of that opportunity while you're unattached and you can travel. That's if you get the opportunity, do it. I only ended up traveling in my late 30s, so a good 15 years after articles. So that's a long, maybe okay, 12, but still a long time. Let's talk money habits. So if you did not start saving and investing in your first 2 years of articles, then this third year is the time that you need to start saving and investing, even if you just save 100 Rand a month. Preferably much more, but at the minimum. So establish the habit is the most important thing. So make sure you increase the amount that you save every time you get a salary increase. You might say to me, always, I will start saving and investing when I'm earning a big chartered accountant salary. The problem is, by the time you start earning a chartered accountant salary, your money habits are set in stone, and then it becomes difficult to change. So start now. Start saving now. And learning about compound interest sounds good in theory. You've done that in university, but you need to start to see how it works with your own money in practice. It's very different to look at money in theory and then to do it practically with your own money. Now, let's talk a little bit about training. So if your firm doesn't offer formal training, it'll be up to you to find training. You might even be able to convince your firm to pay for it if it adds value to your role. Or you could even search for free training online. There's a lot more trainings available than in the past. You might even find good trainings for 250 Rand, 500 Rand. And I know it can be a lot for a trainee salary, but it will be worth it. I've mentioned this before, but learning to communicate in a professional environment becomes even more key in your third year, because now you'll be dealing more directly with the CFOs of the clients or the founders of the clients. You might have been dealing with, let's say, the financial manager in the past, and now you're dealing more with the executives. Communication is such a key skill. So many issues are created because people don't communicate properly. Now, if you communicate well with your manager and your director and they feel that they can rely on you, you're likely to get much better ratings than someone who just does the work. And communication becomes more a part of your role as a third year. It's a much bigger part of your role than the second and the first year. A good communicator with average work skills can tend to do better than an excellent worker with limited communication skills. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you wonder why certain people get ratings because they're good communicators. They might not be amazing at their work, but they're good at communicating. Remember to maintain good relationships with your clients. Those clients are potential job opportunities for you when you leave articles. You have the ability to have a very strong network by the end of your articles. Try to understand how your client makes money. If you can understand that, you can move into any business after articles. You'll be surprised how some people work on a client for 3 years and they still don't understand how the client makes money. It's shocking at times. I mean, like you must. It's and sometimes it's easy to explain, but you actually need to. This happens. This is how the cash is collected, and not don't say it in theory. Actually, be able to understand it, because that will also make you. If you want to be an entrepreneur, someday you need to understand how the business makes money and the cycle, and not just in theory, because you can recite something you studied in varsity, but if you can actually picture it and you can actually see how it works and implement it practically, you can be a business owner in the long run and an entrepreneur in the long run. Now, if you're working in corporate instead of in audit, they move you around to different departments. So establishing good relationships with the people in those departments is also important, because if you like the department, you might end up there after articles. Another reminder to take time off to avoid burnout. If you're in your third year, you probably had you've had 2 years of leave, end of your first year and end of your second year, and you've got some experience now with. And I always say, if you can afford to, always try going on holiday outside of the city that you work in, because if you stay in the city, even if you take 2 weeks off, it just feels like a long weekend. While if you go away, even if you go away for a long weekend, it can feel like a long holiday because you have a change of scenery. So you look after yourself. It's your responsibility to look after yourself. Don't expect your manager or your partner or your colleagues to look after you. Have to look after yourself first. Your health, mental and physical, is most important. So look after yourself first. Learning about yourself is crucial, and that does take time. So don't be afraid to make mistakes and try different things to test out what you enjoy and what you don't. Let me go. I see there's some questions, so let me just see. We've got a question here from Alunga who says, what is your advice to one who wants to get into a non-audit role after doing audit articles? That's what most people do. That's what the majority of people do, is that they go into a non-audit role after audit articles. It depends where you go. So some people go to a big corporate. It depends a lot on the company that you go. You're going to apply for jobs towards the second half of the year. Don't be afraid to apply for jobs. It's going to be a different environment. I'd recommend watching the training. I also did an event, talked about what to do after articles, where it does cover this, because if you go into corporate, it's not a training environment like it is in audit. Audit is a very, the company is is built to train trainees. Whereas if you move to corporate, it's not designed that way. So it's a different situation altogether, and there's different things that you have to learn. And you also might not, now that when you're in audit, you have colleagues who are generally in the same, especially if you're in a big audit firm, you have lots of colleagues that are at your level. Whereas if you move to corporate, you might be the only person at that level, or there might be one or two other people. So it's a different environment. It's a very different way of working, and you just have the basis to learn and try new things. You might get the role that you like, and you might not, but you can't be scared. Remember, the trick about the first year of articles is that it's the first year that you don't have an instruction. Every other year, from the time that you were in grade R and until the time that you did your matric, excuse the noise in the background, even in varsity, they've been telling you this is what you must study, this is what you want, this is the exam you must write, this is the thing that you do, all the way up until the end of third year articles. As soon as articles finished, all of a sudden, boom, there's no one telling you what to do. And that can be a bit of a shock to the system for people who are used to being in a specific structure. For once, you're in a very unstructured environment or an environment that lacks guidance. So there's pros and cons to that. I waffled on a little bit, but yeah, feel free to chat to me about that. In closing, I want to leave you with one message. Remember, this is your life. You are responsible for it. If you want to succeed, it's on you. You can blame other people for you not succeeding, but the problem is that the only person it's going to negatively affect is you, even if you're right. So take charge of your growth, take charge of your life. Remember that the final decision is always yours. Even if you make the wrong decision, you can learn from it and you can change that decision and you can still succeed. Whew, that was a mouthful. Show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified